Hello, everybody. It is Jordan here with a silent PH in the middle, and this is a new show. We're going to start off with some Tabletop RPG Junction news. I think it's going to be the Tabletop Junction show, or just Tabletop Junction here on the Jocular Junction. I wanted to do some extra news stuff for when I couldn't do Saturday morning RPG show. So here we are with Tabletop Junction, and we're going to just talk about news and the various happenings that I find out on the internet, because there seems to be people interested in said stuff. So if you're new here, subscribe to the channel. And if you really want to support, you can become a member of the channel and see videos early, see behind the scenes photos and what have you. And all those other like chat perks. You get emojis and stuff like that. It's a lot of fun. Check it out. Or find me on Patreon at patreon.com/Jordan with a PH in the middle. Today on this show, it's a brand new show. We're going to talk about some of the news. So first of all, there is a new RPG coming out for Foundry VTT only called Ember. And we'll open this up here. Yeah, required only. So Ember is going to have a Kickstarter. Actually, I don't know if the Kickstarter is happening yet. Looks like we do not have a launch date for that. But you're going to explore and run around. They have distinct biomes. They're really adding their map stuff, their VTT-ness to this this tactical gameplay RPG. I don't know. Normally, I know nothing about this. I don't think anybody really knows what kind it is. And I'll be honest, I don't use Foundry VTT, so I'm not entirely sure, but I like the dynamic lighting and things like that. So obviously not a lot of information about it, but there are some people that are pretty excited about this. And I think they are excited because it's supposed to get more support than other ones have gotten in the past. So I was talking with some people because I was thinking about Burn Bright. So Roll20 did the same thing back in 2020. They created an RPG called Burn Bright. This was like a space RPG specifically for Roll20. It was built for Roll20, but it had no support. There were no modules made much after the launch. And I was like, does anyone still play this? I remember this being really big. I think James Introcaso worked on this, Celeste Konowich, if I remember, or maybe they just did a live stream of it. But like, this was like a big thing. Nothing. I hear nobody playing this. I bet it's just, I would like to see the numbers of how this is doing. And I don't want Ember to do the same. I'm a little, the frequently asked questions link doesn't work. What is your RPG about? So I'm hesitant to see if this will be big, but if they support it, like if there's lots of active modules, then the minute I buy Ember, I can go on and find all of these cool resources. That could be an awesome selling point, especially if I'm already playing RPGs on Foundry, which I think was the intention with Roll20. And let's be honest, D&D Beyond bought, back when D&D Beyond was with Fandom, before they were bought by Wizards of the Coast, they were working on an RPG using Cortex, because they bought the Cortex system. And I think their idea was the same thing. Like, hey, we can't rely on this D20 system with an open game license that's kind of like, will they, won't they? Are we allowed to have the rules on here, et cetera, et cetera. And so we'll make our own RPG with, blackjack and hookers, and it'll be great. But they ended up not doing much with Cortex, I think, and eventually sold D&D Beyond, and I don't think Cortex went with the D&D Beyond purchase, but I haven't heard anybody doing anything with the Cortex system, so we'll see. But, new RPGs are always cool, and there's just something about the name and something about this, like, fire symbol that I'm just like, yeah, I would play this. I would definitely play that. So that is that. Wizards of the Coast 5e Quests from the Infinite Staircase. This releases July 16th. If you're on the social medias, you'll probably see people doing interviews and stuff about it. I'm excited for this one because I like older adventures. I think it's kind of fun when they're 5e-ified. and we'll see. I'm most excited for Expedition to the Barrier Peaks, but I already have a 5e version of that from Goodman Games. Do I really need it? Probably not. We'll see. But yeah, Quest from the Infinite Staircase releases July 16th. That is the last book for 2014 5e. And then the one after that will be the 2024 PHB, which I don't think I have it on my news, but they did release the DMG alternate cover. I gotta be honest, a lot of people really liked the DMG 2024 cover that they released. Let's see if I can find it. Here it is. And I know Venger's on there, and I know these other characters are important. I still think that this font is not necessarily what they're going to go with. We'll see the placement of everything. This just wasn't doing it for me. And maybe it's because I can't take Venger seriously that I was like, I don't know. Like, there's so many other better iconic things to put out there than that funny little cartoon that they just love. But I don't know. But the alternate cover of this is Lulth. So alternate 2024 D&D DMG cover. That one was amazing, and I totally want to. I was not on board with the DMG. I was not on board with the 2024 things, but I was going to hold off because I know there's going to be all of these erratas, and my book's going to be outdated the minute it gets into my hands because they're going to update everything on D&D Beyond. But man, these alternate covers are really cool, and I don't think you'll be able to get these past the opening. And this one especially, I really love this picture. I think it's super cool. So hats off to that. I mean, you sold me on that. It's pretty awesome. D&D live action show is stalled. So some of us, I didn't even know this was a thing. I'm a little like out of the loop, I guess. But I guess Hasbro was working with Paramount to create a Paramount Plus show of a live action Dungeons and Dragons show. And I want to say I was like, hi Felix. I want to say it was like Drizzt centric. I could be wrong. But you know, with the popularity of Baldur's Gate 3, this is probably like why they were going to do this. And this isn't a fault of Dungeons and Dragons. I think what this is Paramount Plus is just like, we're not pulling Disney Plus numbers. We're going to fold. And so they're trying to sell their like web streaming platform kind of thing. And with that, they're like, Hasbro, we're not going to make your expensive show. This could be a good thing because Hasbro probably still wants to make a TV series, and so they're going to sell this out to other people and other companies. So you could get like a Netflix or an Amazon that'll pick it up and be like, yeah, we'll make that. And I mean, Critical Role did so well on Amazon. I could see Amazon picking this up and just like not necessarily Rings of Power money into it, but they put money into it. And if you get the right people, could think you could tell a cool story. This is going to be Forgotten Realms centric, I think. We already heard about Joe Manganiello, who was doing he's a big Dragonlance fan, and he wanted a Dragonlance series to get kicked off, and Hasbro just said like, we're not interested in Dragonlance. So that one was canned. That was dead on arrival, but this one I think has hope of going places. So we'll see. Free RPG Day is June 22nd, 2024. Just want to point that out because I think it was announced recently. You can go to freerpgday.com, I think, and you can look at some of the things that are going to be on there for free. Your specific gaming store, it varies because my gaming store definitely has like the stuff nobody really wants, like all of the paper pamphlet stuff of Pathfinder, and then they'll hoard stuff from previous years and put it out there. And basically it's like you can have 2 of these, but if you buy something today, then you can have like 4. And it's like, okay, that's kind of fair. But then the really good stuff, which is like WizKids releases miniatures and some of the places releases dice. And I saw on the website that they have a Drizzt set of dice. This is not Wizards of the Coast, but it's somebody else. But it had like a picture of Drizzt, but it's like a themed set of dice around him. My personal store will be hoarding all of those, and then they give them out if you spend a certain amount of money. And I guess, I don't know, best practices, that's cool. And hell, I always get there late anyway because I usually am doing a show like this one on Saturday mornings. And then all the good stuff is gone. Same with like free comic book day. But anyway, it's happening. You should check it out. It's kind of cool. D&D, there was a tie-in. Wizards of the Coast is tying Dungeons & Dragons in with 2 video games. One is Destiny 2, which I don't know if this is... I don't think anybody knows anything about it yet. I don't know if it's going to be just skins. I don't really know how Destiny 2 works. So with that, not really sure. But the other one is Dead by Daylight, and I have a little bit more information on this. Dead by Daylight, you play a villain, and then the other players play like survivors, and they have a goal, kind of like Left 4 Dead, when some of you could play the zombies and some of you could play the survivors. So this is similar, only there's like one villain who's stronger than the other 3 or the other 4, and those 4 have to work together to try and escape within a certain amount of time. This time your villain is going to be Vecna, and the 4 heroes are adventurers. In the actual game, you're trying to start generators to power on lights and stuff, so I wonder if it's going to be like a campfire that you have to like reignite, or if Vecna's just going to be walking around in modern day. Vecna's an obvious choice to use. I think they wanted to use some other stuff. Sorry, that pop-up keeps popping up because of pop-ups. But yeah, I don't know, it looks cool. Like, it could be fun. I don't know. I don't Dead by Daylight either, so I don't know. Some weekly thoughts. Well, first of all, I should say I want this to be live on Saturday mornings. So if you are watching this, feel free to leave comments down below, and then on the next week's show, my goal is to read the comments, and I'll try to answer any questions that you guys might have. So you can leave me questions that way. You can also leave me questions probably through the Discord. We have a YouTube chat room, and you can leave questions there as well. Or I think we have a show questions chat room. So if you go to the YouTube or the Discord, which all links down below, you can leave me questions, and I'll try to answer some of those on the next show. So I consume a lot of Dungeons & Dragons media. I watch a lot of other YouTubers, and specifically like D&D YouTubers. And one video that caught my eye was Super Geek Mike has a fun channel. You should check him out. He does a lot of Critical Role stuff, but he also covers other things. And I'm not a huge Critical Role fan, but he had a fun video on how did Critical Role steal the Wizards of the Coast 4E Pantheon and just get away with it. Because they flat out stole it. And it made me think about stealing like an artist. And I feel this is not a slam towards Critical Role, so please don't take it that way. But like I feel the community elevates Matt Mercer and Critical Role to an unobtainable level of creativity and wonder. And I want to tell you that it is very obtainable, because they didn't Matt Mercer didn't come up with the Pantheon. He just straight up took it from 4th edition and made it his own. So steal like an artist, go out, take it. So I'll put a link down to this video below, but it's really interesting because Mike explains like, here's the 3rd edition gods. And then when 4th edition happened, they wanted to like reshuffle stuff into the Points of Light, Netherese, not Netherese, Netheril. Yeah, Netheril, I can't remember the name of the setting. It was a Points of Light setting. But it was very small, just like a kind of like a small location map, not like a big continent like Faerun. And they wanted to have less lore and make it more obtainable. So they made these gods, and some of them are from not necessarily the Forgotten Realms. I think they're mostly from Greyhawk, and then they created ones like the Raven Queen and a couple others. But yeah, they just took them, and if you go buy their Tal'Dorei book, they gave them funny names, but they are exactly the same gods. And it's like, it's just funny. They just got away with it. And and maybe Wizards was like, suing Critical Role is probably a bad PR for us. We're just going to give them this and like call it good. But Yeah, like it was just that could have gone a very different direction if they were like, wow, guys, they like Critical Role more than they like Hasbro. We probably shouldn't sue them and alienate our fans even more. That was a good call if that was a meeting that they had. So steal like an artist. And then got me thinking about settings in general. And there was another podcast I was listening to. I think it was the Eldritch Lorecast. And they were talking about settings in general because a lot of them were confused that Greyhawk is going to be the default setting in the DMG. My personal feelings about Greyhawk being the default setting in the DMG is that they're going to use that as, here is a base, easy world with nothing really in it, and you can use that as a template to build your own, much like what Critical Role did when they stole the 4E Pantheon of Gods. And so I think new adventures going forward will be in the Forgotten Realms and they'll still be working that world. They're not just like jumping ship for Greyhawk, but I think specifically the DMG will be Greyhawk because that's like base Dungeons and Dragons, the first setting. We're going to do that kind of a thing. But it got me thinking because they also were saying on there that campaign settings are different than novel settings. And here's the point, though, is Ed Greenwood created the Forgotten Realms not as a game setting, but as a place for him to write novels. Like, he wanted to write stories, and so he flushed this out. And if you think of Lord of the Rings, Tolkien built all of that mythology, so he knew what was going on when he wrote The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. So, that being said, I think I'm going out on a limb here, but most fantasy book settings don't work well as campaign settings because like the resolution is like kind of already there and you already have your hero and stuff. And Eberron works so well because it was built up from like the base as just like, here's a bunch of conflict. And then the author shrugs his shoulders like, and I don't know, like go figure it out, because that allows us to have conflict to solve and to move into interacting players and NPCs and stuff. Whereas, and I love the Forgotten Realms, but the Forgotten Realms moves forward in such a way that it is very author-like, and there's so much lore because Ed had to answer so many questions for himself, not from a gamer perspective, but from this. And so he knows like the currency of this other place and, and the types of coins they use, just like unnecessary things that don't lead to interesting gameplay, but was necessary when he was writing his novels. Kind of interesting. And that made me think of the Brandon Sanderson RPG that's coming out at Gen Con. They're going to play test it at Gen Con. A lot of people are really excited for that. Brandon Sanderson has the biggest cult following. I don't know. I don't know if that will be a good setting. It might be a really cool RPG, but it makes me wonder if that's going to be a good setting. Because, yeah. So, I don't know. We'll see. And then we talked about this. Settings made for RPGs have open-ended, but then like the Alien RPG, I was just talking about this with Lex, is that he's like, it's so good. And I'm like, yeah, but what's the campaign for that? Like, I would love to play a couple of nights of Alien RPG, but I don't see myself playing it more than maybe 3 times. Like, what, oh no, I ran into a xenomorph again. Like, I just didn't see the long-term potential, whereas I did see that with Mothership because I could have a xenomorph kind of thing, but then I could also have all of these other stories, and I don't have anyone kind of actually me saying like, oh, well, that doesn't exist in the Alien universe. And I'm like, well, you're right, but we're just playing a game. So I don't know. Maybe it just works in smaller doses for those. Like, I still think I would really enjoy a Dresden Files setting for either Practical Magic by Monte Cook Games, which isn't out yet, or there's other systems. Kids on Brooms, that could be a fun one there. Monster of the Week. Crowdfunding. So if you are familiar with Jordan, you know that he really likes Kids on Bikes. It's a fun system. And they just released a second edition, which really is just like it's like a 1.2 edition. They didn't change anything. They just fixed a few things and provided more examples and better clarity in the text. Still a very good book. And they also came out with Kids in Space, which is like the space version, and then Kids on Brooms, which is the like Harry Potter modern day magic kind of version. And this one is Kids in Capes, and you're going to be superheroes. So I think this is really cool. It's made by the same people. I like the Kids on Bikes franchise. I think it's a fun game. It's great for one-shots. Long form campaigns are not its strong suit, but every Halloween I try to run a Kids on Bikes Halloween game where all of my players are kids in the 80s on Halloween, and something weird happens and there's all these trick-or-treaters and they have to like save the neighborhood. And maybe that's Dracula, maybe that's the Wolfman, maybe it's zombies or ghosts, but like adults don't believe them, so it's up to the kids to save the day. I advertise it to people that it's Stranger Things, the RPG, because you are just regular kids reacting to something super paranormal, you know, much like Stranger Things, but it's comedic and it's fun, and it's the 80s. It's the 1980s. So cool. So I definitely think you guys should check that out. Links down below. And then finally, like I said, I want this to be live. I have a prior obligation on this Saturday morning, so I wasn't able to make this live, but I'm recording it now Friday night. And my goal is to answer questions and also talk about some of the projects that I'm working on. So first of all, I'm working on a Vecna Eve of Ruin video. I've been reading through that, taking notes, figuring out what I want to say. I'm going to try and write a script this weekend, film it, and that should be up on Wednesday. So if you're curious about Vecna Eve of Ruin, that will be on the main channel on Wednesday. Really awkward that I'm pushing people to different channels all the time, but it's better to separate the D&D and the not D&D. And then I've been working on Modular D6, which is my, probably needs a new name, but it is my dice pool, D6 dice pool RPG system that I've been playing around with. And it kind of started as just like I just want to see if I can do this. And I was really interested in Open D6, which is the West End Games Star Wars D6 system, but they stripped out all of the stuff. And it's not public domain, but it's in the OGL, and so it's freely available for you to use OpenD6. So this RPG project kind of started as a hack from that. And right now I'm playing around with the idea of certain words and how to translate that onto a character sheet so that it has a existing vernacular that is very, I guess, like understandable and simple for other players and dungeon masters, game masters to use. And one of the concepts of this is that you will roll you'll roll an amount of D6 equal to your stat plus like some bonuses. So let's say that my strength has 3d6 in it, and then I have another die because I have a weapon. So if I make a melee attack, I'm going to roll my strength dice plus my weapon die. So I'm going to roll 4d6. But you succeed on a 6 no matter what. But depending on your specialization, you succeed on a 5 and a 6. And that can get pushed further with, say, magic items and stuff. And then you would succeed on a 4, 5, or a 6. And so every success counts as like a hit or how much damage, or you're lowering the challenge number of the conflict that you're in. And I'm trying to find a cool like way to say that. And I think it's going to be, right now I'm toying with the words over. So on the character sheet, I would write, hey, I've got 3d6 strength. And then I would do a line, and over that would be like the number 5. So then it's like, okay, you need to roll strength. What is your strength? It's like, oh, my attack is 4d6 over 5. So then the game master knows, okay, you're rolling 4d6 and you have to score a 5 or higher. And so then the DM could be like, oh my gosh, you need to roll this, but it's going to be I don't know, like it's going to be you're going to roll your magic, but your over is increased or decreased or something. And so then they're like, oh, normally I roll magic at 3d6 over 5 or over 4. And I'm like, well, now it's going to be 3d6 over 5. And so I'm playing with that idea of like, does that make sense? Like the over. And it makes sense to me, but I can't tell if it makes sense to me because I've just been saying it over and over in my head. And we'll see. If you're curious about this, I have a link on the screen as well, but go to the jordan.itch.io and just follow me there, like create an account, follow it. I'm going to upload my playtest, or I'm going to upload the full rules that I have so far, but it'll be a free like document, like a Word document that you can take and read and let me know and give me feedback and play it yourself and see if it works. But before I release that, I wanted to make some character sheets to make it easier for people to play. And then I'm going to be running some games as well at some point. I think I need to run non-Internet Stranger games first, and then I will run some Internet Stranger games when I have a little more playtesting under my belt. But Modular D6, so far in my head it's amazing, but who knows? I've only really played a little bit by myself with pretend players to kind of like see if the numbers work, and so far I think they work. I think it's a lot of fun. I haven't played any home games this week because my players had a lot of conflicts. Two of my players, one of them is the director of the show, and the other one is one of the leads, is in a production of She Kills Monsters. And that is a Dungeons and Dragons-esque play about a woman named Agnes who her sister dies, and she finds an old RPG module that her sister wrote. And in order to like get in touch with her, this sister she didn't know very well, she has a dungeon master run her through the adventure, and she is new to Dungeons and Dragons, doesn't really know what's going on. The play is set in like 1995. It's full of a lot of fun 90s references, and it's good. They did a great job. Like, it's super fun. So I went and saw it on Thursday, which was yesterday. This is the closing weekend. So after this weekend, we'll be able to start playing Plain Gia again, and Plain Gia has been a lot of fun. So that's what I'm working on. I'm working on these new videos that I'm going to try live streaming. So please subscribe and come back on Saturday mornings around 9 a.m. Pacific, and we'll be doing this live, and I'll answer chat questions and things like that. It'll be great. Also, Vecna review on the main channel coming out soon, and then I have a Sea of Sands kind of flip through, which is a campaign setting that I bought for Old School Essentials that I want to talk about here. That is also coming when I find time to edit. Just a busy guy. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for being part of the very first episode of the Tabletop Junction, and I will see you all next week. So happy gaming.